they comes to that place and they visit that place. They stay for a day or two there. We are ready to organize their visit. We will organize, provided if they give some date, then it will be something good revival of the Gandhi visit to and Kasturba Gandhi visit and work. It will be a good thing. Now we can go for the next speaker, or if there is any observation, it's most welcome.
So before the valedictory session by Arun Gandhi ji, I will like to request our last speaker for today, Shivani ji. Shivani ji, hello Shivani ji. Shivani ji, are you connected? I think there is some technical issue with Shivani ji.
Hmm.
It's an answer.
Okay, then you request for the valedictory.
Yeah, yeah. So now for valedictory session, we would like to invite Honorable Arun Gandhi ji. Arun Gandhi ji, an Indian American socio-political activist, fifth grandson of Mahatma Gandhi ji. He worked for Times of India for more than 30 years, and in 1991 he started MK Gandhi Institute of Nonviolence in US. He's a renowned author and scholar. So we request respected Arun Gandhi ji to start his valedictory session.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy and honored to be among all of you and to be speaking to a vast audience like yours. I'm also honored and pleased that this is the first time in 86 years of my life that my son and I are on the same platform for the same seminar. Um, he's given the um, inaugural address, and I'm giving the valedictory address. And that's not the only thing. We also have our best friend, Veronica from Venezuela, who's the icing on the cake for us. So, in a sense, this is a family uh, affair. And of course, the family believes that Gandhi is always relevant and will always be relevant, not only because he is our grandfather, but because it makes a lot of sense that his philosophy is based on the very foundation of love, respect, understanding, acceptance, and appreciation. It's only when we understand that that love is the basis of this whole philosophy, and that is why he insisted that in nonviolence we don't have any enemies. We have friends who are misguided and need to be transformed. So his whole mindset
Hmm?
was that I'm not fighting an enemy, I am transforming a friend. So it's only when we have that kind of a mindset that we would really be able to understand the philosophy and practice it effectively. I have heard a little bit about some of the other speakers who talked about what's going on in the world today and especially here in the United States. And it always troubles me because even scholars, I feel, have looked at this philosophy simply as a philosophy for conflict resolution and not an overall philosophy. Um, Although grandfather used it in India just to get independence for India, and Dr. King used it in the United States to get civil rights for his people, and everybody else who have used it in the world have used it for one specific reason, and that is to either get independence or get equality for their people. But this philosophy is much more than a weapon for conflict resolution. It is about personal transformation. It is how we understand and how we live the philosophy. You cannot live in a culture of violence that is so deeply rooted in us that it has overtaken every aspect of our lives. Our sports, entertainment, our speech, our relationships, our education, our religion, everything is controlled by the culture of violence. And when we live in that culture of violence, it is difficult for us to occasionally practice nonviolence and achieve success in it. We may in some cases achieve some success, but that would not really be a true success. It will only be a small victory. The true success is when we are able to focus on the problem instead of the person and resolve the problem. In a culture of violence, we are taught just the opposite. We are taught to punish the person, and that'll take care of the problem. And we have seen over the generations that it has not really taken care of any problems. Whatever we think has been resolved is not really been resolved. It's still there uh, to uh, to torment society. Even World War II, we fought World War II because of Hitler and because of all the hate that he was practicing and promoting. We destroyed millions of lives and billions of dollars worth of property. We got rid of Hitler and we got rid of his Nazi army, but we did not get rid of the hate and prejudice that he espoused. So that is what the culture of violence teaches us. We get rid of the person, but we never get rid of the problem. Whereas the culture of nonviolence focuses more on the problem rather than the person. And that is how we, even in the independence struggle in India, grandfather always talked about uh, the British being our friends and not our enemies. And so he was able to get the British involved in focusing on the problem and getting rid of some of the problems. Now, he didn't achieve complete success in the freedom struggle is another matter. And that was because of political reasons and and the overpowering culture of violence, which did not want him to succeed in his practice. And therefore, we had a lot of violence and the division of the country. And the result of that is what we are suffering today. So we need to understand uh, what nonviolence really is. And we need to understand what civilization really is. Today, our concept of civilization is richness and education. We think that a country that is rich and a country that has a lot of university graduates is the most civilized country in the world. But it is not. We see the most civilized country, the United States, so called civilized country, is also the most savage country in the world. The savagery that is taking place here today in the streets of the United States and in many other and in our relationship with the rest of the world is unbelievable. And so we need to understand, what do we really mean by civilization? Gandhi's concept of civilization was where there is love and understanding and compassion and harmony among people, where we can all live in peace and harmony with each other. Peace is not the absence of war. Just because we are not at war with anybody or we are not fighting anybody doesn't really mean that we are living in peace. Peace is only achievable when we create that harmony in society where all of us live with respect and love and compassion for each other. And that is lacking today. We don't see that very much in our national and international relationships. Today, because of our materialistic lifestyle, and everywhere in the world we have adopted this materialistic lifestyle, where money and possessions is the most important thing in life. And that's why we are all scrambling individually and collectively, scrambling to get riches. We want to get rich. We want to make millions. We want to be able to buy all the wonderful things available in the market. And so that is a measure of success. And we have to realize that that kind of materialism is destructive. It's not constructive. It makes us selfish and greedy, and we think only about ourselves. And so nations think about themselves, and we have this whole miserable concept of patriotism, that we need to be patriotic to our country and our world. And that gives us the impression that we can preserve our part of the world with arms and ammunition and armies and all that kind of thing, and not be concerned about the rest of the world. But no country in the world can enjoy stability and security if the rest of the world is going down the drain. However powerful we may be, we will all go down the drain along with the rest of the world uh, because we have not done anything to help them. So the stability and security of any country depends on the stability and security of the whole world. And it is only when we have that relationship with the rest of the world, where we are all helping each other to attain a good standard of, reasonably good standard of living, then we will have peace in the world. But as long as we ignore the rest of the world and ignore the disparities and ignore the hardships and difficulties, not only within the country, but outside the country with the world, we are never going to live in peace. We are never going to be able to achieve peace. And that is what was troubling grandfather. And that is what he said, that this philosophy of nonviolence teaches us to change ourselves. He expected that each individual, each one of us, will make that attempt to improve ourselves, to change ourselves. You know, Socrates said that an unexamined life is not worth living. And that is true. We exist today. We exist from morning till evening. Every morning we get up and do the same routine things all day long and go to bed the next, and then get up the next day and do the same thing over again. That is existence. That is not living. Living is when we make our lives meaningful, not only to us, but meaningful to people around us and to our neighborhood. And if each one of us attempts to do that, then we will be able to create that harmony and peace that grandfather wanted in this world. So it is a question of, first of all, understanding what do we mean by violence. We have again a very distorted view of violence. We think violence is only the fighting and wars and killings and beatings that take place in society, and that as long as we are not killing anybody, we are non-violent people. I feel very pained by all the protests that go on today in the United States and other parts of the world, uh, where people come out in the streets and shout angry slogans and display a lot of anger and frustration. And that is the point at which somebody can infiltrate the ranks and cause an incident and create violence there. And so the people who organize this protest have to realize that they have to make sure that their movement is not sidetracked or hijacked by people and give it a bad name. This is something that one has to be very alert about. And that is why in the earlier civil rights movement, they went through all that training. And it's very important for people to be trained before they go into any kind of action. Without training, you can't really um, achieve the goals that one expects to achieve. There was a very interesting an episode in grandfather's life, which happened in 1913 before he left South Africa to come back to India. He launched a movement in South Africa against all the prejudices there. And as he always did in his movement, he made it all public. He announced it in the press, and he announced what he was going to do, where he was going to do it, why he was going to do it. Everything was made public there. And after the whole thing was publicized, the next day the workers of the South African railways decided to go on a strike. And they announced that, and when grandfather read this in the papers, he realized that this strike is going to be more important for the government to deal with than his movement. And so he didn't want to put additional pressure on the government. So he announced that he is withdrawing his campaign until the strike the strike is over. The leadership of the strike came to grandfather and said, look, strike is a legitimate nonviolent weapon. We are fighting a nonviolent struggle also, and we are fighting a common enemy. So why don't you join us and we can strengthen each other? And grandfather said, first thing, I don't have an enemy. I am not fighting an enemy. I'm trying to transform a friend. The second thing is that you have a different agenda. I have a different agenda. So you go ahead and do what you have to do, and then I will do what I have to do. And so the strike went on the next day, and there was the usual anger and frustration and pointing fingers and showing the fist and all of that in the streets. So it was very easy for the police and the administration to infiltrate their ranks and cause an incident that gave them the opportunity to crush the strike with extreme violence. And then grandfather launched his campaign, and for weeks the prisons were filled up with people who quietly protested without any anger and frustration, and they allowed the police to arrest them and take them to prisons. And when the prisons were all filled to capacity, that is when General Smuts, who was the prime minister of the country, invited grandfather to come and negotiate a peace deal. And at that time, General Smuts confessed to grandfather. And he said, I could deal with the strike because there was so much anger and frustration there. And I could crush them with more violence. But he says, I don't know how to crush you because you are so loving and respectful and compassionate that I don't know how to crush you. And that is the crux of the philosophy of nonviolence, that we don't give the opponent the reason to crush us violently if we don't show anger and frustration. So these are aspects of his philosophy that we have to remember and try to live them, because unless we live them and make it a part of our lives, we will never be able to practice them randomly. So, the philosophy is more about personal transformation rather than political conflict resolution. So these are some thoughts that I thought I would share with all of you in this attempt to understand grandfather's philosophy and make it more viable. I want to thank the organizers of this conference for giving me the honor to give the valedictory address and for organizing this wonderful international gathering. I wish all of you good luck in whatever you are doing. I wish that all of you will give some thought to the message that I have. I'm not saying that I have the right understanding of the message, but this is my interpretation of my grandfather's philosophy, and I may be wrong. So I am willing to be corrected by anyone who has a better idea. And so this is a gathering where we are all sharing our experiences and through those experiences, learning from each other. So I wish all of you good luck in your ventures, and I hope someday that I'll be able to come to India and I'll be able to accept the invitation to go to Champaran along with Tushar and see the wonderful work that is being done there. I wish I could go to every place that there is some wonderful work going on, but at 86 now, it's not going to be very feasible for me. So I should, well, again, thank you all and wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gandhi.
Thank you.
We are we are very we feel enlightened by your talk, and you have really interpreted and given a guideline to us to move forward. And when we meet next, perhaps there will be more clarity. And when you will come to Champaran, and my request will be to visit at least Tana Bhagat, a Tana Bhagat that is close to Ranchi, then you will realize how Tana Bhagat and the Tharus are still living the life of Gandhi. They are the living Gandhians, and without reading any book, they have just uh, seen their grandfather with Gandhiji, and Gandhiji is still live in their life, in their folklore, in their folk songs, in their folk tales. So this is something very great, which we find in these rural India, in tribal India, especially among these tribes. So I would like to request you that whenever you have a plan to visit next time, please let us know. We will come with you and we will show at least those, at least the Tana Bhagat and this uh, Champaran, because there is there is a banyan tree under which Gandhiji used to sit, and he used to uh, listen the complaint of the farmers there. So that place I visited first of all in 1972, and
Hmm.
now when I went there in this 2020, I found that now the whole land, open land has turned into a building. There is now no space. Only that tree is still there. So I said, those people who were living there, I narrated the whole scene there and story about how Gandhiji was brought by that uh, Shuklaji to Champaran, and then how Gandhiji used to sit in that tree and he used to take note of their complaint, or you can say their need. It was the need of the time, those days. So Gandhiji was, people never considered Gandhiji an outsider. And
No, नायक सर,
Gandhiji, uh,
हेडफोन को थोड़ा माउथ के पास रख लीजिए, आवाज ब्रेक हो रहा है.
and Gandhiji also considered them as a family member. And Kasturba Gandhi was like head of the family for those tribals and those villagers where Gandhiji used to live. So still they feel that what Kasturba Gandhi told them to maintain, how to maintain cleanliness, how to maintain how to cook the food, and how to spin the charkha. All that is they remember and they will narrate you. And the most interesting part that you will find is that there are several folk songs in Bhojpuri. Bhojpuri is a dialect,
Hmm.
in which they are requesting Gandhiji to come again to liberate them from this differential development. There is the development is at different level. The equality in the society is not there. So still they believe that if Gandhiji comes again, all that the economic disparity, the social disparity, the problem in health, all that will be solved. So if you come to visit to that place, at least they will get satisfied that at least the grandson of Gandhiji has come. I think that most probably they will consider you as Gandhiji itself, and they will not allow you to leave that place so easily. They have to be convinced that now you have very little time. So the people are so much crazy to and waiting still for visit of Gandhiji. So thank you very much that you accepted my invitation and uh, made it uh, to be with us, and hope that in future also we will be getting both of you, Tushar and yours, um, uh, guidelines, guidance, and the action plan on which we should try to act upon. Thank you very much to all
Thank
the participants. Now नीरज जी, एक शिवानी जी छूट गई थी ना, वो आ गई है शायद, कनेक्ट हो
जी
गई है.
जी, तो वी रिक्वेस्ट शिवानी जी फॉर टू गिव
वोट ऑफ थैंक्स कर दे.
वोट ऑफ थैंक्स. या शिवानी जी, आप अनम्यूट कर लीजिए खुद को.
आज आप लोगों ने इस कार्यक्रम में सभी को का धन्यवाद, खासकर गांधी जी के पोते साथ गांधी अरुण गांधी जी का, जिन्होंने कार्यक्रम में भाग लिया और सोसाइटी फॉर एम्पावरमेंट की तरफ से इसका आयोजन किया गया था. आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस कार्यक्रम में भाग लेने के लिए.
Thank you very much to all of you respected Arun Gandhi ji, Tushar Gandhi ji, Devi Prakash Sinha sir, Shobha Kunjur ji, Veronica ji, Bhairav Lal Das ji, William Westerman जी, शिवानी जी, एस नारायण सर, आप सभी इस कार्यक्रम में आए, उसके लिए सोसाइटी फॉर एम्पावरमेंट की तरफ से आप सभी को हार्दिक धन्यवाद. Many thanks to all of you on behalf of Society for Empowerment. Thank you very much.